Hello, time for another Manning Great Book Review. Today's book is On Looking 11 Walks with Expert Eyes by Alexandra Horowitz, published in 2013 by Scribner. It's 308 pages. Alexandra Horowitz is a psychologist and a expert on canine cognition, which is a fancy way of saying the way dogs think. It's a study of how dogs' brains function. As I'm sure you're aware of, the human brain processes information that it gets from its senses: sight, taste, smell, and so forth. The problem is we are bombarded constantly with so much sensory information from our senses that our brain would become overloaded and not be able to handle it. Unless we ignored the great bulk of what's coming in to us. This is a problem that some people have, particularly people with attention deficit disorder. The reason they have trouble paying attention for very long is that they're distracted by all this data coming in. Their brain isn't able to filter out and ignore other data. We do this all the time. If you're at a cocktail party talking with someone, you tend to concentrate on what that person is saying, and you don't even hear the chit-chat in the background. If you're at a movie theater, you tend to focus on what's on the screen instead of what's going on around you in the theater. You don't notice the other people's moving around or sipping their drinks or eating their popcorn. You ignore all that. And that's, sensible. The brain can't handle a whole bunch of data at once, and so it makes sense that we learn very early on to ignore it. However, there are some downsides to ignoring the information around us and not paying attention to certain things. One of the most common traffic accidents is collisions between cars and motorcycles. And one of the most common causes of motorcycle wrecks is the driver in the car not seeing the motorcycle because you're looking for other cars and you don't even notice the motorcycle there because your brain is concentrating on look for cars, and so you don't look for motorcycles or bicycles or pedestrians. And so there are dangers to ignoring what's around you. And that's basically the premise of this book, On Looking. In this book, the author, Alexandra Horowitz, makes 11 walks, most of which are just around her neighborhood in Manhattan. She does go to a few other places, I think in Pennsylvania and a few other places like that. But the gimmick is she goes on each one of these walks with an expert of some kind. There's a geologist, a naturalist, a expert on typography, typefaces, a sound engineer, an artist, a woman who went blind in her 40s, so she became blind as an adult, an entomologist, an expert on bugs, and two chapters that are kind of different from the others. She takes a walk with her year-and-a-half-old toddler and her dog. And in each case, she learns something that she didn't know before because these people, these experts, are able to look at her neighborhood through different eyes because they have training that Horowitz doesn't have. For example, the geologist is able to point out the different stones in the buildings. A lot of the buildings in her neighborhood are made from limestone, and limestone is not native to Manhattan. Most of it's imported from New England or Indiana. And limestone is a rock that forms from sediments, sedimentary rocks formed at the bottom of the oceans. And in a lot of limestone blocks in New York City buildings, there are tiny little fossils. If you go up close and look at the stones, you can see tiny little bits of shell and other traces of life during the Paleozoic era, when there was huge amounts of Permian period, when there were a lot of sea life in the ocean that became fossilized. What she learns, of course, from going around with her dog, because dogs have a much, much better sense of smell than we do. And so she notices that the dog wanders around and smells these things that she can't smell. And so in each one of these chapters, she sees something that she doesn't see before. She goes with an orthopedic surgeon who watches people walking around the street and is able to tell what's wrong with them, diagnose some of their back problems and stuff from their posture and the way they're walking, their gait. And that's basically what they do in a doctor's office. They have somebody get up and walk around the office, and they watch them and see how they hold their spine and put their feet in front of each other, and they're able to determine if they've got lower back problems or something like that. And so the whole book is like that. It's listening to sounds from the blind person, studying the different typefaces on the signs by the typographer. Typefaces go in and out of fashion just like clothes do. And so in this chapter, the typographer can actually tell how old some of these businesses are by the signs they have, whether they're serif typefaces or sans serif and what kind of thing, because there are periods of time when a particular typeface is really popular, like Helvetica is very popular right now, but it may not be popular, 20 years from now. So the whole point of this is to get out in your neighborhood and watch and look at things with different eyes. Try to see things that you normally don't pay attention to. Get down at lower level, look up, so forth. This happened to me one time. I was on a walk around a college campus just for some exercise. It was early in the morning. The sun was just coming up. And I happened to look up, and there was this incredibly beautiful sunrise. There was pinks and purples and blues. It was like an impressionist painting. But nobody else walking looked up. They were all just straight ahead, focused. They often had headphones on, and they were just looking straight ahead. And I was the only one who saw this really gorgeous sunrise because I was the only one who looked up and actually paid attention. So that's kind of the inspiration for this book, is the idea of going around your neighborhood and looking at things in different ways. And there's a little bit of information on geology and typography and so forth, as well as how the human brain works. So if this sounds like an interesting book to you, you probably ought to pick it up. The book is On Looking. The author is Alexandra Horowitz. This has been another Man in Gray book review. Thanks for watching.